Here we are in Antigua Shipyards for game number 2. Let's introduce our players.
Mid left-hand position as the red Terran, known as Zerg. It is Ryung, spawning over here on Antigua Shipyard. Top right-hand position as the blue Zerg. We have, of course, ATN DarKFoRcE.
DarKFoRcE is not the most proficient ZVT. He has 49%. He much rather plays ZVP, at least statistically. It may not be the case with the current metagame, as a lot of Zergs have been struggling against that, but I feel like Zerg's in a good spot against Protoss.
Oh, Protoss, okay.
I mean, that's what a lot of Zergs feel at this point.
Did
you see the Slayers video? Protoss imba! That's what they say like every 5 minutes in the videos. Absolutely hilarious. But I think Zerg feel very comfortable against Terran, almost in a lot of stages of the game. Terran does have a lot of early pressure options still, but for the most part, if you can survive that early game, a lot of Zergs will tell you that they're comfortable mid to late game. And hopefully Ryung, he had a pretty cool idea of going double armory really early, getting upgrades. Never really able to capitalize on that because of those counterattacks at the third, really pulling him back which way, and then trying to get those tanks like you were saying against the army.
You know, I've had a lot of experience with double upgrade play in my TVZs. I've actually tried that for maybe a good 150, 200 games, and I just tried to, you know, focus around styles in getting these double upgrades. I think it's actually less efficient, dare I say it, just because I think the gas is better invested into more units, and having that splash damage with, let's say, siege tanks, or even have the power of Thors in quantity, it's a lot better in terms of dealing with terrain and positioning, and I just overall think it's better for timing pushes as well.
Well, regardless of what happens, Ryung did try that. We'll see if he's able to do it again. He's opening the exact same way as he did last time, gasless, fast expand with the quick barracks. DarKFoRcE, again, very unconventional. You know, who goes Roach Muta? You know, not a lot of people try to do that because it's not necessarily larva or gas efficient in that regards, but it was a great choice given what DarKFoRcE was reading of his opponent. And so, you know, it's very interesting in response from our Zerg players, so you can't exactly pin what he wants to do, and that's what I like. You know, able to really see what his opponents and choose his actions accordingly. Ryung is double gassing, so this is the same exact steps he did take in game number 1. And Mech is a lot stronger in Antigua Shipyard than it is on Shattered Temple because the nature of the center is much more forgiving than Shattered Temple.
I still feel like Shattered Temple makes a really good mech map. I think it's one of the better mech maps as well because they're like small little tiny chokes. So I can, you know, just stuff 3 tanks there. And I mean, you don't want to bring a pack of roaches over there and just get them burned up.
That is true. And if you can make it past, I mean, if you can keep Zerg on those 3 bases, again, Antigua Shipyard is a map that people love to really keep Zerg to just 3 bases, deny Straylog plays that kind of style, and we've seen lots of Terrans execute that accordingly. And we wonder what Ryung chooses to follow up after this. DarKFoRcE going for a quick third immediately, and this is what he wanted to do earlier in game number 1, but was not able to.
I think this is, it's a little bit interesting. I think this is one of the more riskier things I've seen from DarKFoRcE that I haven't really seen him do ever. He normally plays just based on standard macro games and just does the appropriate things, but I don't know what this is a response to because he opened up Hellion Banshee last game. And Hellion Banshee actually takes out thirds pretty efficiently. And it looks like Ryung will scout this out, so let's see where he actually goes with this. Oh, a tech lap down. We might see Marauders popped out of here. That could be very efficient against that too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the new Queen mechanic with, of course, 5 range. I think that's really, really weak, Marauder Hellion, but we'll see in a little bit.
Well, it makes it harder for Marauders to kite the Queens, especially with that range, but if you do have really good control, anything is possible, especially with a Zerg that goes for a fast third. But look at this. Look at this. A fast third from Ryung as well. This is so cool, especially because, again, Ryung makes it seem like it's just a regular thing. This is what makes it so great in the best of 3, being able to mask it and really make it seem like he's just going to do the same thing he did last game, and DarKFoRcE has to prepare accordingly.
Precisely. Now, here's the one thing, though. DarKFoRcE has the ability to kill his opponent his opponent doesn't have the ability to kill DarKFoRcE. And it's because when you get a fast third like this, Terran just does not have the ability to defend against all these different places. The natural and the third in that big open spot. So technically, if there was a Zergling, Baneling, Roach all-in, or any series of those, Roach, Zergling, Zergling, Baneling, I think Ryung will not be able to stop it. So in his head, he has to be a little bit worried of that. And there you go. That's exactly what we see. Look how many Hellions are on the map. 6 Hellions, which is pretty reasonable, but he is going for siege tanks immediately after this, investing his gas into that siege tank. And he will just probably mass up and go the standard 2-2 timing. There it is. Both engineering base, yeah.
And what DarKFoRcE scouts is the Hellions, sorry, the factory with the reactor and the tech lab with the barracks. And so in his mind, things are still up in the air. He's not sure what to expect, if Marauder Hellion were going to follow up, if he's going to see fast Marine tank switch after, which is exactly what it is. But he doesn't even know about this third that's coming up. That's such an greedy spot as well. The fact that Ryung can really capitalize early off with triple mules will really allow him to catch up economically. You can see at this point, +1/+1 also has begun a long time ago for DarKFoRcE while getting up his Bane nest. And this is just such an interesting spot because DarKFoRcE is trying to be prepared for anything. He's starting spores at different bases as well.
Baneling nest has already started, showing that he is a little bit scared of what's to come. But if he just went in with a single Zergling and saw the third base, he would know exactly what his opponent is capable of, and that is not attacking. And that's why you see at this point 7 Banelings being morphed. This is completely defensive. He's reacting to his opponent. That's a shame, because that is a good deal of gas. Even though it's only 175 gas, it's still a good deal of gas that could be allocated to, let's say, an infestation pit right now.
That's huge. It also, like, it helps him pump out 2-2 that much faster, and he can't necessarily allocate that much gas immediately without that sacrificing in some department. And, you know, he's just doing the smart, conservative thing, but in this case, it's just a little too safe because he hasn't been able to scout that third, which right now he's poking his Overlord and he will spot, and once he spots that, he's like, oh man, I didn't need to make all of these units and I didn't need to make these spore crawlers because that's not what he's doing.
Yeah, so that is a shame. So he will be down in, you know, that 0.7 efficiency of his build. Unfortunate for him. LOL.
Well, I mean, you can see, like, at this point, he would have been able to start +2 carapace as well, but he's not able to. And having that upgrade advantage over Terran, even if it's just a slight few seconds, is pretty valuable, especially with if you go for a massive Zergling style.
I definitely agree. Ooh, Hive tech already.
Oh, he just finished layer 2. Wow. That's really funny.
Okay, so this Hive tech, I think it actually wins against the 2-2 timing. Look at this. Okay, 190 seconds. You normally start your Spire tech or normally it's Spire immediately when the hatchery goes down because Hive is 100 seconds, Spire is 100 seconds, so it lines up really nicely. So it looks like he is going Ultras. I don't know if these Ultras will be in time, though. I'm not familiar with this build, to be completely honest, that DarKFoRcE is doing.
Yeah, I mean, last time we saw a fast Hive rush in ZVT was when TLO did that. And he's had some mixed results, and he does get Ultras really fast. But a couple things that are different in his favor is that, you know, DarKFoRcE played a lot safer. TLO played pretty greedy in that regards and was able to get his bases up. And DarKFoRcE isn't as ahead economically. He just hit 80 drones, but look at Terran's at 72 plus mules. And so in all intents and purposes, Terran's ahead by the worker count because of that. The Ultras Cavern does take a minute to get with 55 seconds, so about 2 minutes before he can get Ultras out, which gives a little bit of flexibility if he can get his Infestor count high. And the biggest thing for DarKFoRcE will be just like what he tried to do in game number 1, which is stall the push. If he can stall for 2 minutes, he can get those Ultras out, the Ultras Cavern and the Ultralisks, and be able to hold it back. And while defending his bases, that's going to be another question if he's able to hold on to these auxiliary bases. One
thing that I think DarKFoRcE should do is chuck these Zerglings either on this left-hand side or the bottom right-hand side. Put them somewhere where they are accessible and they can be used as a counterattacking option. That'll slow the Terran out going forward because, of course, they want to make sure that they're not going to be susceptible to some sort of huge run-by, and then they can actually push out. That's really, really efficient, and it'll buy him enough time to get that Ultra Cavern out for the Chitinous plating to actually finish, and obviously for his... I do that every time, my god. And then I second-guessed myself. Chitinous plating, thank you.
It is chitinous.
And then obviously he'll be able to deal with his opponent pretty efficiently. Whoa, Infestors. I was not expecting him to make Infestors. That's kind of weird. Normally it's just like you get your huge Hive-Tech units out so fast that you're able to just surprise your opponent. And all of a sudden you have a nice composition counter. Getting those Infestors severely weaken his chances of actually, you know, coming out with a huge Ultra count.
And at the same time, though, it's a little bit of the safer play, though, because, again, you have those initial fungals, but you may not even need fungals if you can get a good surround on these units, immediately dropping on the first half of the units past the Watchtower. You can see Ryung also slow pushing his way, trying to see if he can secure a fourth, while DarKFoRcE anxiously hugging the right side and does not want this base to drop whatsoever. He knows if Terran plays a starvation game, Cloud vs. Zenio was a fantastic example yesterday. That's just going to be bad news in 3-4 minutes. Ultras first are popping out. You can see one is out on the field, so he's going to have to wait for a couple more before any real consequence. And as a result, DarKFoRcE, can he buy enough time? Will he be able to land fungals, or will he even commit before that? As you can see right now, both players are fighting for position.
Very nicely done, though. I have to say, DarKFoRcE has been able to hold out for so long. This 2-2 timing just hasn't been effective. And this is the big problem. I think Ryung has just been too lax with his defense, or with his push. This push needs to hit as soon as 2-2 comes up here, because now Hive-Tech is way too good. And you're going to see all these Zerglings just come in here and wreck face, it looks like.
Zergling without the Infestors and Banelings, though, and that could have been a lot better. Imagine if you land those fungals. You see Ryung trying to split and trying to see if he can kite those Ultralists, and even though Ultralists do have some pretty decent upgrades, not enough to hold on to the 2-2 from the Marines. You can see DarKFoRcE has an incredible amount of energy stacked on his Infestors. If he landed those fungals, those Banelings would have connected, Ultras would have had an easier time, and all of a sudden that fourth base would not necessarily be a really comfortable spot for Ryung to be in.
What's more important in this situation, though, is the fact that those siege tanks were cleaned up. Normally that doesn't happen. If Terran retains those siege tanks, it's really easy to actually defend against a lot of the, the Ultras. But because the siege tanks died, obviously it's a big advantage for DarKFoRcE. Give a lot of time. The drop in the bottom right gets cleaned up. That does give a little bit of time for Marines and Marauders to take the center of the map. Still, I feel like this is a very small army.
Yeah, it's not that big of an army. If you look at army supply, a huge concentration of it is in production for both players. You can see 3 more Ultras are out into the field, so it's going to still be some time before DarKFoRcE can really muster anything in response to Terran. Meanwhile, Ryung is still trying to just secure everything, get his 3-3 up, and if he can hit with 3-3 before Zerg even has +3 carapace, or even chitinous plating, that could be really beneficial, especially now that he's got a significant amount of Marauders. The Infestors are not in position to fungal the units, so Ryung has a great spot, but now the fungals finally drop in before the Ultras can really get in there, and a moment of disorganization from the Zerg army will really cost DarKFoRcE, as Ryung was able to crush that army with a lot of resilience.
You know why he was able to crush that? Number 1 is positioning, number 2 is chitinous armor isn't even upgraded. It's not even started.
Yes.
So these Ultras are super brittle. And that's very unfortunate, because obviously he had a really nice advantage going into that mid-game. But unfortunately, I mean, when you trade that inefficiently, you lose a lot of your momentum. Ultras are definitely a momentum unit. You need to actually, keep rolling with the Ultralist count. Right now, DarKFoRcE, he will lose his 4th base, and that will be pretty much, the big advantage. Possibly even the nail in the coffin.
DarKFoRcE is moving in here, desperate to protect his expansion, but it drops anyways with the last few Ultralists falling onto the field. DarKFoRcE knows it. GG. Ryung takes game number 2 and ties it up after a fantastic battle series on Antigua Shipyard.
That's unfortunate. I think DarKFoRcE could have went 2-0 right there and really solidified his win at the North American Star League. But now
he had a lot of great opportunities, but like we were pointing out, I think I want to point out the big thing is that his Infestors always seem to just be like 1 or 2 seconds too late.
Sure. Yeah.
Just like a couple. It's not even like that big of a thing. He keeps the organization before the battle perfect, but just like maybe the order he sends the units in terms of moving, just a little bit too late, and he can't lock it down. Ryung's able to plan himself and like create the concave in preparation for the Ultralists.
Yeah.
Ultras do absolutely nothing.
And I do want to mention that there was a big advantage for DarKFoRcE in the fact that you stopped that 2-2 timing. Now, the whole thing about the 2-2 timing is you invest most of your gas into your upgrades really fast. Also, you're investing your gas into your economy, getting additional command centers really fast. So you delay, your third and fourth gas for that third command center. Now, what that does is makes it really hard for the composition to be, suitable for that hive tech. So you can't deal with, let's say, ultras and infestors too efficiently. All your supply is really wrapped up in those Marines. So the fact that DarKFoRcE was able to hold off his opponent for that long gave him the quality of units advantage. It gave him the unit composition advantage, which should have led to an inevitable advantage overall, which gives him the win. He wasn't able to actually produce everything. I really feel like the infestors actually did a lot. He wasn't able to get the +2 armor. He forgot it, and his ultra count kind of was a little bit smaller than it needed to be at that, that timing, that 15, 16-minute timing.
And so that should wrap up the recap of that game. Currently tied series 1-1. We want to thank GameMinder, the smartphone application that lets you know about upcoming broadcasts as well as game demos. Download it at handleopera.com. We'll be back with game number 3, the deciding match between Ryung versus DarKFoRcE. Who will take it? The answer after these messages.